Dr. Hyun-woo looked out the window of the medical ship Healing Light as it moved through space toward the distant planet. The stars looked the same as always, bright points of light against the black void. He had seen this view hundreds of times during his years as a ship doctor, but it still made him feel small and humble. "Doctor, we will reach Kepler 442b in 6 hours," said Dae-ho from the pilot's seat. The young navigator had been with the medical fleet for 3 years now. His hands moved smoothly over the controls as he checked their course. Hyun-woo nodded and walked to the medical bay where Dr. So-young was checking their supplies. She was the ship's chief medical officer and had more experience than anyone else on the crew. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her eyes showed the wisdom that came from saving thousands of lives. "How bad is the situation down there?" Hyun-woo asked. So-young held up a data pad with the latest reports from the mining colony. "Very bad. The plague started 3 weeks ago. It attacks the nervous system and spreads fast. The colonists tried to treat it themselves, but they don't have the right medicine or equipment." "How many people?" 12,000 miners and their families. Half of them are already sick. Without help, most will die within days. Hyun-woo felt the familiar weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This was why humans traveled the galaxy as healers. When disease or disaster struck, they came to help. It didn't matter if the victims were human, alien, or something in between. Life was precious. The Healing Light was not a large ship, but it carried the most advanced medical technology in the galaxy. The cargo hold was full of healing nanobots that could repair damaged cells and fight disease at the microscopic level. The medical bay had equipment that could regrow lost limbs or fix a damaged heart in hours instead of months. "Min-ji, send a message to the colony," Hyun-woo said to the communications officer. "Tell them we will arrive soon and are ready to help." Min-ji was the youngest member of the crew at only 22 years old. She had joined the medical fleet right after finishing her training. Her fingers flew over the communication panel as she sent the message. "Message sent, Doctor. I'm also broadcasting our medical codes on all frequencies so everyone knows we're here to help." This was standard practice for human medical ships. They always announced themselves clearly and made sure everyone knew they were not a threat. The Healing Light had no weapons, no armor, and no shields except for basic protection against space debris. It was painted white with the Red Cross symbol that meant medical help throughout the galaxy. Hyun-woo went to check on the rest of his team. There were 43 people on the ship, all trained in medicine and emergency care. Some were doctors like him, others were nurses, technicians, or specialists in different kinds of treatment. They came from all over human space, united by their desire to help others. In the main medical lab, he found Gildong working on the nanobots that would be their main weapon against the plague. The young technician was brilliant with medical technology, able to program the tiny machines to do exactly what was needed. "How are they looking?" Hyun-woo asked. Gildong looked up from his microscope. "Perfect, sir. I've programmed them to target the specific proteins that the plague uses to attack nerve cells. They should be able to stop the disease and repair the damage it's already done." "Excellent work. How long will treatment take once we start?" "For each patient, about 6 hours for the nanobots to clear the infection, then another 12 hours for full healing. We can treat dozens of people at the same time." This was what made human medicine so special. Other species in the galaxy had good doctors and decent technology, but humans had learned to work with nature at the smallest level. Their nanobots didn't just fight disease. They help the body heal itself faster and better than ever before. Hyun-woo walked through the ship, talking to his team and making sure everyone was ready. They had done this many times before. When they reached the planet, they would set up treatment centers in the colony's buildings. The sickest patients would be brought to the ship for intensive care. Within a few days, the plague would be gone, and the colonists would be healthy again. "Doctor, we're getting close to the planet," Dae-ho called from the bridge. Hyun-woo made his way back to the front of the ship. Through the main window, he could see Kepler 442b growing larger. It was a brown and gray world, covered mostly in rock and dust. The mining colony was built around a large deposit of rare metals that were valuable throughout the galaxy. "Any word from the colonists?" he asked Minji. "Yes, sir. They're very grateful we're here. They've prepared landing areas and are ready to help however they can." So Young joined them on the bridge, carrying her medical bag. "I've divided the team into groups. We'll be able to cover the entire colony and start treatment immediately." Hyun-woo felt good about the mission. They had the right people, the right equipment, and the right knowledge to save these people. In a few days, 12,000 lives would be saved, and the healing light would continue on to help others who needed them. "Take us into orbit, Dae-ho," he said. "Let's get to work." The navigator's hands moved over the controls, and the ship began its final approach to the planet. The mining colony appeared on their screens, a cluster of buildings and equipment spread across the rocky surface. Everything looked normal and peaceful. That was when the space around them suddenly filled with massive shapes. "What in the world?" Dae-ho said, his voice full of shock. Enormous alien warships were appearing all around them, as if they had been invisible and suddenly decided to show themselves. The ships were dark and angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. They were easily 10 times larger than the healing light. "Minji, identify those ships," Hyun-woo said, trying to keep his voice calm. Minji's fingers flew over her controls, but her face grew pale. "Sir, they're Zenthari Empire vessels. Military. Class, I count 15 dreadnoughts and dozens of smaller ships. The Zenthari Empire was known throughout the galaxy as an aggressive military power. They conquered planets and enslaved populations, ruling through fear and violence. But they had never attacked a medical ship before. No one attacked medical ships. Send them our medical codes," Hyun-woo ordered. "Make sure they know we're here on a humanitarian mission." "Code sent, sir." No response. The alien ships were moving into attack formation around the healing light. Weapon ports were opening and energy readings showed they were charging their guns. "This has to be a mistake," So Young said. "We're clearly marked as a medical vessel. We're unarmed. They can't possibly mean to attack us." But as Hyun-woo watched the alien warships surround his defenseless ship, he realized that sometimes being right didn't matter. Sometimes evil didn't care about rules or mercy or the value of life. The first energy blast lit up space like a small sun. The healing light shook as the first blast hit its hull. Sparks flew from control panels and the lights flickered. Hyun-woo grabbed the nearest wall to keep from falling as the ship was hit again and again. "Shields are failing!" Dae-ho shouted, over the noise of alarms and explosions. "We can't take much more of this!" The medical ship had basic shields meant to protect against space rocks and radiation, not military-grade weapons. Each blast from the Zenthari ships tore through them like paper. The hull began to crack and break apart. "Why are they doing this?" Minji cried out, tears running down her face. "We're here to help people." Hyun-woo tried to think of something, anything they could do. But the healing light was not built for fighting. It had no weapons, no armor, No way to defend itself against the massive alien warships that surrounded them. "All hands to escape pods," he ordered. "This is not a drill. Everyone to the pods now." The crew ran through the braking ship toward the escape pods. Explosions rocked the vessel as more Zenthari weapons hit it. Parts of the hull were blown away and air rushed out into space. Emergency doors slammed shut to keep the rest of the ship from losing all its air. So Young helped. Injured crew members reached the pods. A piece of metal had cut her arm, but she ignored the pain to focus on others. "Hurry! The ship won't last much longer." Gildong reached his escape pod and began the launch sequence. As the small pod separated from the dying ship, he activated the emergency beacon that would call for help. The signal would reach Earth eventually, but that might take days or weeks. Through the small window of his pod, Gildong watched the healing light break apart. The ship that had saved so many lives was being destroyed by creatures who seemed to care nothing for mercy or compassion. Pieces of the medical vessel drifted through space, along with the escape pods carrying the survivors. Hyunwoo's pod was damaged when debris from the ship hit it. His communications were dead, and life support was failing. He could only watch as the Zenthari ships began hunting down the escape pods one by one. The alien vessels moved like sharks through the wreckage, using their weapons to destroy the small pods before the humans inside could escape. Hyunwoo saw flashes of light as pod after pod was blown apart. Each flash meant someone from his crew was dead. On the bridge of the lead Zenthari ship, Admiral Vexitar watched the destruction with satisfaction. He was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms, dressed in the black uniform of the Empire's military. His species believed that showing mercy was a sign of weakness. "Are all the human pods destroyed?" he asked his weapons officer. "Most of them, Admiral. A few escaped into the asteroid field, but their life support won't last long. They will die, slowly in the cold of space." Vexitar nodded. "Good. This will send a message to the rest of the galaxy. The Zenthari Empire takes what it wants, and no one can stop us. Not even the precious human healers." The Zenthari had been planning this attack for months. They wanted the mining colony's rare metals, and they knew that humans would come to help when the plague started. The disease itself had been created in Zenthari laboratories and spread by their agents. "What about the colony?" asked the weapons officer. "Begin bombardment. Leave no survivors. We want the metals, not the people." Bright beams of energy reached down from the Zenthari ships to the planet below. The mining colony's buildings exploded and burned. 12,000 people who had been waiting for medical help were killed in minutes. Meanwhile, Hyunwoo's pod drifted deeper into the asteroid field. His air was running out, and the cold was getting worse. But he was still alive, and that meant he might be able to tell someone what had happened here. Other pods had survived, too. So Young's pod was hidden behind a large asteroid, its power turned off to avoid detection. Minji's pod had taken damage but was still working. A few others were scattered through the rocks, their crews barely alive. Gildong's pod had the best communications equipment. Even though he was hurt and scared, he kept trying to send messages into space. His distress beacon was weak, but it carried the story of what had happened. "This is Medical Technician Gildong of the ship Healing Light," he broadcast. "We were attacked without warning by Zenthari forces while on a humanitarian mission. Our ship is destroyed. Most of the crew is dead. The colony has been destroyed. Please, someone help us!" The message traveled through space at the speed of light, but space was vast. It would take time to reach anyone who could help. Gildong could only hope that someone would hear it and care enough to act. Hours passed. The Zenthari ships finished their attack on the planet and prepared to leave. They had taken what they wanted and killed everyone who might tell others what had happened. Or so they thought. Admiral Vextar looked at the reports from his ships. 15 escape pods destroyed, Admiral. No life signs detected from the survivors. Excellent. Set course for our next target. The humans will learn that their age of peace is over. But the Zenthari had made a mistake. They thought humans were weak because they chose to heal rather than hurt. They believed that a species that spent its time helping others must have forgotten how to fight. Far away, at Earth Defense Command, Admiral Tae-hyun received Gildong's message. He was an older man with white hair and scars on his hands from battles fought long ago. He had served in the military when humans still fought wars among themselves, before they learned to work together. Tae-hyun read the message 3 times, his face growing darker with each reading. Around him, other officers gathered to hear the news. The room grew very quiet as they realized what had happened. "Sir," said one of the younger officers, "what are your orders?" Admiral Tae-hyun stood up slowly. His voice was calm, but there was something cold and dangerous in his eyes. "Send a message to all fleet commanders. Tell them to prepare for immediate deployment." "What about the peace treaties, sir? We haven't used military force in over a century." Tae-hyun walked to a wall panel and placed his hand on a scanner. Red lights began flashing throughout the building as security systems activated. The treaties only apply to those who respect them. These aliens have just learned that there are consequences for attacking the defenseless. He turned to face his officers. "Initiate Protocol Omega. It's time to wake the old guard." The room filled with the sound of alarms as Earth's military began to stir from its long sleep. In space, Gildong's pod drifted among the asteroids, its beacon still calling for help. Soon that help would come in a form that the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Tae-hyun stood in the elevator as it descended deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The ride took 15 minutes, going down through rock and metal to levels that didn't exist on any public map. Red emergency lights bathed everything in a bloody glow. Captain Shung-min waited for him at the bottom. The man was tall and thin with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. He had been the keeper of Facility Omega-7 for 20 years, guarding secrets that most humans had forgotten. "Admiral," Shung-min said with a salute, "I received your message. Are you certain about this? Once we wake them, there's no going back." "A medical ship, Captain. They destroyed a medical ship full of healers trying to save lives. Yes, I'm certain." They walked through corridors carved from solid rock. The walls were covered with warnings in dozens of languages: authorized personnel only, weapons of mass destruction, here sleep the tools of mankind's darker days. Some of the text was in languages that were no longer spoken on Earth. How long since the last inspection? Tae-hyun asked. 6 months ago. Everything is in perfect condition. The AI systems run diagnostics every day. They've been waiting. They passed through multiple security checkpoints. Each one required different forms of identification: fingerprints, retinal scans, DNA samples, and codes that changed every hour. The facility's computer systems were watching them, making sure they were who they claimed to be. Finally, they reached a massive door made of metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Seung-min placed his hand on a scanner while speaking a code phrase. "The sword remembers its purpose." The door opened with a sound like thunder. Beyond was a cavern so large that the far walls disappeared into darkness. The ceiling was lost in shadows hundreds of meters above their heads, and floating in the center of the space, held by invisible force fields, were 12 ships. These were not the clean, white vessels that humans used for exploration and medicine. These ships were black as the space between stars, with hulls that seemed to bend light around them. They were angular and brutal, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. The smallest was a kilometer long. The largest stretched for 3 kilometers. Through the cavern. The ancient battlecraft, Seungmin said quietly. Built during the resource wars when humanity was still learning to work together instead of fighting itself. Tae-hyun looked up at the ships with a mixture of awe and sadness. I was there when we sealed them away. The day humanity chose to become healers instead of warriors. Was it the right choice? Until today, yes. Today, they reminded us why we built these in the first place. They took a smaller transport to reach the flagship. The Bahamut was the largest and most powerful of the ancient battlecraft. Its hull was covered in sensors and weapons that could destroy planets or heal them depending on what was needed. Inside, the ship was dark and quiet. The corridors were wide enough for powered armor and tall enough for different species to walk comfortably. Everything was built to last forever and work in any condition. The bridge was at the heart of the ship, a circular room filled with control stations and display screens. In the center was a command chair that had waited empty for 300 years. Tae-hyun approached the main control panel and placed his hand on it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then lights began to flicker on throughout the ship. Computer systems that had slept for centuries started to wake up. A voice spoke from hidden speakers, deep and cold as winter. Admiral Tae-hyun, identity confirmed. I am the ship's AI. How may I serve? Status report. All systems operational. Weapons charged and ready. Crew quarters prepared for immediate occupation. I have been monitoring galactic communications. I am aware of the attack on the medical vessel Healing Light. What is your recommendation? There was a pause as the AI processed thousands of pieces of information. The aliens believe humans are weak because we choose peace. They have forgotten that peace is only possible when you are strong enough to enforce it. Recommendation. Remind them. Tae-hyun sat in the command chair for the first time in 3 centuries. It felt familiar, as if he had never left. Begin. Crew recall procedures. Contact all ancient fleet personnel. Around the galaxy, former military officers received coded messages on private channels. These were people who had served in humanity's military during the transition from war to peace. They had become doctors, teachers, engineers, and scientists, but they had never forgotten their first training. Within hours, the first crews began arriving at Facility Omega-7. They came quietly, without fanfare or announcement. Commander Jae-sung had been running a medical research station on Mars. Captain Byung-ho had been teaching history at a university on Luna. Lieutenant Young-ho had been working as a translator for the diplomatic service. But when they put on their old uniforms and walked aboard the ancient battlecraft, they became something else. They became the guardians that humanity had hidden away when it chose the path of peace. Dr. Hye-jin arrived with the strategic planning team. She was Earth's top xenobiologist, an expert on alien species and their weaknesses. But she was also one of the architects of humanity's hidden defense network. What do we know about Zenthari military capabilities? Tae-hyun asked as the senior. Staff gathered in the Bahamut's briefing room. Hye-jin activated a holographic display showing the alien empire's territory. They have approximately 10,000 warships spread across 50 star systems. Their technology is based on brute force rather than finesse. Strong shields, powerful weapons, but limited tactical flexibility. Weaknesses? They rely on numerical superiority and intimidation. They've never faced an enemy that could match their firepower. Their command structure is rigid and doesn't adapt well to unexpected situations. Captain Sung Min brought up technical specifications. Our weapons are 300 years more advanced than anything they have. Our stealth systems can make us invisible to their sensors. Our shields can absorb anything they can throw at us. How many ships can we deploy immediately? All 12 ancient battlecraft are ready for action. Each one is equivalent to 100 standard warships. We also have support vessels and supply ships if needed. Tae-hyun looked around the room at his officers. These were people who had dedicated their lives to healing and helping others. But they had also sworn an oath to protect humanity when it was threatened. "Orders, sir?" asked Commander Jae-sung. "The Zenthari think they can attack our healers without consequences. They believe we're weak because we choose peace over war. They're about to learn that the reason we don't fight wars anymore is because we became too good at winning them." The ancient battlecraft began their launch sequences. Systems that had been dormant for centuries came online one by one. Weapons that could crack moons powered up. Engines that could bend space itself began to hum with energy. One by one, the 12 ships rose from their underground hangar. They moved silently through the ocean depths, then broke the surface and climbed toward space. Their stealth systems made them invisible to most sensors, but anyone who could see them would know that something terrible and beautiful was being born. The Bahamut led the formation as they left Earth's atmosphere. Behind it came the Leviathan, the Ragnarok, the Fenrir, and 8 others. Each one was named after creatures of destruction from human mythology, but they served the cause of protection. As they reached open space, Admiral Tae-hyun opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. Omega Fleet launching on schedule. Estimated arrival at target in 72 hours. Understood, Admiral. Good hunting. The ancient battlecraft disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them the accumulated rage of a peaceful species pushed too far. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity had been so eager to put away its weapons. Some lessons, Tae-hyun thought, had to be learned the hard way. News of the attack spread through human space faster than light itself. Quantum communication networks carried the message to every human colony, station, and outpost in the galaxy. The reaction was immediate and intense, Captain Woo Jin commanded. The defense station hidden on Luna's dark side. The facility looked like a simple research base from the outside, but beneath the surface lay one of humanity's most sophisticated military command centers. When the news arrived, he was in the middle of a routine training exercise with his staff. "Sir, we're receiving priority Alpha communications from Earth Defense Command," reported Lieutenant Yoon Young, his tactical officer. She was young, but brilliant. Having graduated at the top of her class from the Naval Academy that officially didn't exist. Woo Jin read the message twice, his face growing grim. "They attacked a medical ship. 43 crew members, all healers." He looked up at his officers. "Activate all defense networks. Begin recall of all deep space personnel." Throughout human space, similar scenes were playing out. On mining stations, research vessels, and colony worlds, military officers who had been living as civilians received coded messages. They were being called back to duty for the first time in 3 centuries. Dr. Yoon Seo had been working at a hospital on Proxima Centauri when her recall order arrived. She was both a combat medic and a surgeon, trained to save lives in the middle of battle. As she packed her emergency kit, her hands moved automatically through routines she had practiced but never used in real combat. The transport that picked her up was filled with other recalled personnel. There was Captain Dong Hyun, who had been teaching engineering at a technical college. Commander Sai Woo, who had been working as a ship designer for civilian companies. Major Young Suk, who had been running a farm on New Korea. They didn't talk much during the journey to the rendezvous point. Each of them was thinking about what it meant that the ancient fleet was being activated. Humanity hadn't used its military in 300 years. The fact that they were doing so now meant something terrible had happened. Dr. Hye-jin was already aboard the Bahamut when the transport arrived. She had been busy analyzing everything known about Zenthari military capabilities, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. What she had found was both encouraging and disturbing. Their technology is primitive compared to ours, she reported to Admiral Tae-hyun. But they make up for it with numbers and ruthlessness. They don't take prisoners, they don't negotiate, and they don't show mercy. How many humans do they have in their territory? None that we know of. They tend to kill or enslave other species rather than trade with them. The attack on our medical ship fits their pattern perfectly. Tae-hyun studied the tactical displays showing Zenthari ship movements. They're consolidating their forces. It looks like they're preparing for something big. Yes, sir. Intelligence suggests they're planning to invade the Vega system completely and use it as a base for further expansion. If they succeed, they'll be in position to threaten 12 human colonies. This was exactly what Earth's military planners had feared. The galaxy was full of aggressive species that respected only strength. Humanity's choice to become healers and peacekeepers had been seen by some as weakness. Now the Zenthari were testing that assumption. Captain Byung-ho joined the briefing from the bridge of the Ragnarok. His ship was slightly smaller than the Bahamut, but just as deadly. All ancient battlecraft report ready for action, Admiral. Crews are at 90% manning levels. Weapons status? All systems operational. We could glass a planet if necessary, or perform precise surgical strikes on individual targets, whatever the situation requires. This was what made the ancient battlecraft so dangerous. They weren't just weapons of mass destruction, they were precision instruments that could apply exactly the right amount of force needed for any situation. A human ship could destroy an enemy fleet, then immediately switched to providing medical aid to the survivors. Commander Jae Sung reported from the Leviathan. Sir, we're receiving communications from the survivors of the medical ship. Several escape pods made it to the asteroid field. They're requesting immediate evacuation. How many survivors? 12 confirmed, including Dr. Hyun Woo and Dr. So Young. Life support is failing on most of the pods. Tae-hyun felt a mix of relief and anger. Relief that some of the medical crew had survived, anger at how many had died. Detail the Fenrir to rescue operations. Get our people out of there. Yes, sir. What about the Zenthari forces in the system? If they interfere with the rescue, destroy them. The ancient fleet changed course slightly, heading for the Vega system. At maximum speed. They could have arrived in hours, but Tae-hyun wanted time to plan the operation carefully. This wouldn't just be a rescue mission. It would be a message to the galaxy about what happened when someone attacked human healers. Meanwhile, on Earth, other preparations were being made. In secret facilities around the planet, weapons that had been stored for centuries were being brought online. Orbital defense platforms that looked like communication satellites began charging their hidden weapons. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter was full of mining operations. Most people thought they were extracting metals and rare elements for civilian use. In reality, many of them were military installations disguised as mining stations. They had been built during the resource wars and never deactivated, just hidden. Commander Minho ran one of these hidden bases. When he received his activation orders, he began powering up weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets. The asteroid his base was built into looked like any other piece of space rock, but it contained enough firepower to defend Earth against invasion. Similar preparations were happening throughout human space. Colonies that looked defenseless were activating hidden weapons. Civilian ships were revealing military capabilities that had been carefully concealed. The entire human civilization was transforming from a peaceful society into a military machine. But the most important preparations were happening in the deeper parts of space, where humanity's real secrets were kept. Research stations that studied healing technologies were also capable of creating weapons that could kill without causing pain. The same nanobots that repaired damaged tissue could be programmed to dismantle enemy ships at the molecular level. Dr. Sujin was Earth's chief terraforming engineer, responsible for making dead planets suitable for human life. But terraforming technology could also be used to make living planets uninhabitable. The tools that created atmospheres could also destroy them. How long would it take to make their home system uninhabitable? Tae-hyun asked during a secure communication. 6 hours, sir. We could alter their star's output, change their planet's orbit, or introduce atmospheric toxins. Any of those would end their civilization without directly killing anyone. And to reverse the process? Another 6 hours. We could give them a demonstration of what we're capable of, then offer to fix it if they surrender. This was the kind of precision that made human military technology so terrifying. They didn't just destroy things. They could control the very forces of nature, deciding who lived and who died with the accuracy of a surgeon's blade. As the ancient fleet approached the Vega system, Admiral Tae-hyun made his final preparations. The Zenthari had attacked a medical ship, killed innocent healers, and destroyed a colony full of civilians. They had broken the most basic rules of civilized behavior. Now they were going to learn why those rules existed in the first place. All ships report status, he ordered. One by one, the captains of the ancient battlecraft confirmed their readiness. 12 ships that had slept for 3 centuries were awake and ready to remind the galaxy why humanity had been so willing to choose peace. ETA to target? 6 hours, sir. Excellent. Begin stealth approach. I want to see their faces when they realize what they've awakened. In the darkness of space, 12 invisible ships moved toward their target like the instruments of destiny itself. The Zenthari fleet hung in space around the ruined mining colony like vultures over a corpse. Admiral Vexatar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his ships strip valuable metals from the planet's surface. The operation was proceeding perfectly. Status report, he ordered his weapons officer. All resistance eliminated, Admiral. The colony is completely destroyed. We've detected no survivors on the planet's surface. What about those human escape pods? Sensors show no life signs. They either died from their injuries or ran out of air. Either way, they won't be telling anyone what happened here. Vextar felt satisfied with the operation. The humans would eventually notice that their medical ship was missing. But by then, the Zenthari fleet would be long gone. The mining colony's rare metals would fund the Empire's expansion for years to come. The Zenthari had built their empire through carefully planned attacks like this one. They would identify valuable targets, create a crisis that would draw in help, then destroy anyone who responded. It was efficient and profitable. Admiral, called the sensor operator, I'm detecting some unusual readings. What kind of readings? Space. Distortions, sir. Very faint, but moving in our direction. Vextar moved to the sensor station. The displays showed tiny ripples in space-time, barely detectable even with military-grade equipment. Probably just background radiation from the planet bombardment. Continue mining operations. But the distortions were getting stronger and moving, in a pattern that suggested intelligence behind them. Something was coming toward the Zenthari fleet, something that could bend space around itself to avoid detection. High above the fleet, space began to shimmer and twist. The distortion grew, larger and more intense until suddenly reality seemed to tear open like fabric. From the gap emerged something that made the Zenthari ships look like toys. The Bahamut materialized directly above Admiral Vextar's flagship, its massive bulk blotting out the stars. The ship was 3 kilometers of black metal and death, bristling, with weapons that glowed with barely contained energy. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it look like a hole in space itself. "What is that thing?" Vextar shouted at his crew. The sensor operator's hands flew over his controls, but the readings made no sense. It's enormous, sir! Mass readings are off the charts! And it's human!" Impossible. Humans don't build ships like that. But, even as he spoke, 11 more massive shapes were appearing throughout the Zenthari formation. They materialized from hyperspace with perfect precision, each one positioned to maximize the damage they could inflict. The ancient battlecraft had arrived. On the bridge of the Bahamut, Admiral Tae-hyun looked down at the alien fleet with cold eyes. "Target their flagship. Single quantum torpedo, minimum yield." Captain Sai-woo, the weapons officer, hesitated for a moment. Even minimum yield from a quantum torpedo would completely destroy the enemy ship. "Sir, that will kill everyone aboard." They killed 43 medical personnel who were trying to save lives. They destroyed a colony full of civilians. Fire the weapon. Sai-woo's hands moved over the controls. Deep in the Bahamut's hull, a torpedo the size of a fighter craft was loaded into its launch tube. The weapon contained enough energy to crack. A small moon, but it was set to its lowest power setting. The torpedo shot from the Bahamut like a star being born. It moved faster than light itself, phasing through normal space to appear inside the Zenthari flagship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the enemy ship simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no debris, no flash of light. The massive Zenthari dreadnought was there 1 second and gone the next, as if it had never been built. The quantum torpedo had unraveled the bonds between the ship's atoms, returning it to basic energy. The remaining Zenthari ships reacted with panic and confusion. They opened fire on the ancient battlecraft with everything they had, filling space with energy beams and projectiles. The weapons struck the human ships and simply disappeared, absorbed by shields that turned the attacks into harmless light. "Return. Fire," Tae-hyun ordered calmly. "Precision strikes only. I want them disabled, not destroyed." The ancient battlecraft responded with weapons that defied understanding. Beams of coherent energy reached out to touch the Zenthari ships, and wherever they struck, the alien vessels simply stopped working. Engines shut down, weapons went silent, life support systems failed. Captain Byung-ho commanded the Ragnarok as it moved through the enemy formation like a shark through a school of fish. His ship's weapons were surgical in their precision, targeting specific systems on each enemy vessel. Within minutes, dozens of Zenthari ships were floating helplessly in space. Commander Jae-sung used the Leviathan's advanced sensors to locate the escape pods containing the medical ship survivors. His ship moved carefully through the asteroid. Field! Its tractor beams gently pulling the damaged pods to safety. "We have them, Admiral," he reported. 12 survivors, including Dr. Hyunwoo. All are alive but need immediate medical attention. Get them to the medical bay. Full treatment, whatever they need. The rescue operation continued while the ancient battlecraft systematically disabled the Zenthari fleet. It wasn't a battle in any traditional sense. It was a demonstration of power so complete and overwhelming that the aliens could barely comprehend what was happening to them. Dr. Yoon Seo worked frantically in the Bahamut's medical bay as the survivors were brought aboard. Dr. Hyun-woo was unconscious and suffering from oxygen deprivation. Dr. So-young had radiation poisoning from her damaged pod. Others had injuries from the original attack. But these were human medical facilities, the most advanced in the galaxy. Nanobots flowed through the patient's bloodstreams, repairing damage at the cellular level. Healing fields accelerated the recovery process. Within hours, people who should have died were sitting up and asking questions. "What happened to the Zenthari?" Hyun-woo asked when he was strong enough to speak. "We're dealing with them," Yoon Seo replied. "Try to rest. You've been through a lot. Are they all dead?" "No. Most of them are still alive. We're not like them." On the bridge, Admiral Tae-hyun opened a communication channel to the surviving Zenthari ships. His voice was calm and quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. "I am Admiral Tae-hyun of the Earth Defense Force. You have attacked a clearly marked medical vessel engaged in a humanitarian mission. You have killed medical personnel who were trying to save lives. You have destroyed a civilian colony." The communications officer on one of the disabled Zenthari ships responded with fear in his voice. We surrender. Please don't kill us." "You misunderstand. I'm not here to accept your surrender. I'm here to deliver a message." Tae-hyun gestured to his communications officer, who activated a broad-spectrum transmitter. The message that followed would be received by every ship, station, and planet in Zenthari space. For 300 years, humanity has chosen peace over war. We became healers instead of warriors. We helped other species instead of conquering them. Some of you interpreted this as weakness. You were wrong. The display screens around the bridge showed the Zenthari fleet floating helplessly in space. Not one of the enemy ships was capable of fighting back. Humanity doesn't fight wars anymore because we became too good at winning them. We put away our weapons because they became too terrible to use. Today, you forced us to remember why we made that choice. Tae-hyun paused, letting his words sink in. Return to your homeworld. Tell your leaders what you have seen here. Tell them that Earth remembers how to make war, and we are very, very good at it. But tell them also that we prefer peace. The choice of which path we take is now theirs. The communication channel closed. Around the ancient battlecraft, the disabled Zenthari ships began to drift away from the system. Their crews were alive but thoroughly defeated, carrying word of humanity's hidden strength back to their empire. "Sir," asked Captain Sai-woo, "what if they choose war?" Admiral Tae-hyun looked out at the stars, thinking of all the human colonies and medical ships scattered throughout the galaxy. "Then we'll remind them why our ancestors built these ships in the first place." In the medical bay, Dr. Hyun-woo was recovering from his ordeal. As the nanobots repaired the damage to his body, he thought about what he had learned. The same species that could heal any injury could also create weapons that unmade matter itself. The same hands that saved lives could destroy entire fleets without causing unnecessary suffering. Humanity had not forgotten how to make war. They had simply chosen something better. But when that choice was taken away from them, they could become the most terrible force in the galaxy. The ancient battlecraft began their journey home, carrying with them the survivors of the medical ship and a message that would change the balance of power throughout known space. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity had been so eager to choose peace, and why that choice should never be taken for granted. The news spread through Zenthari space faster than their fastest ships could travel. The survivors of the Vega system attack carried with them stories that seemed impossible, but the evidence was undeniable. An entire conquest fleet had been defeated by 12 human vessels in less than 20 minutes. Emperor Crixnal of the Zenthari Empire sat in his throne room, listening to the reports with growing disbelief and rage. He was a massive creature, even by Zenthari standards, with scars covering his gray skin from countless battles. He had built his empire through strength and fear, and now humans were threatening both. "Explain to me again how 300 ships were defeated by 12, he demanded of the trembling admiral who had brought the news. "Your Majesty, their technology is beyond anything we've ever seen. Their weapons don't just destroy, they unmake things at the atomic level. Their shields absorb our attacks and convert them to energy. Their ships move through space like nothing we understand." Crixnal rose from his throne, his 4 arms gesturing angrily. "These are the same humans who spend their time healing sick aliens and delivering medical supplies. You're telling me that healers have weapons that can destroy our best warships?" "Yes, Your Majesty. But there's more. They could have killed everyone, but they chose not to. They disabled our ships and let the crews live. They sent a message about preferring peace. This was what truly disturbed the Emperor. An enemy who killed. Everything in sight was predictable. An enemy who could kill everything but chose not to was terrifying. It meant they were fighting by rules that the Zenthari didn't understand. "Gather the full fleet," Crixnal ordered. "Every ship, every weapon, every soldier in the Empire. We're going to Earth, and we're going to capture these weapons for ourselves." Meanwhile, throughout the galaxy, other alien governments were receiving similar reports. The peaceful humans who had spent centuries healing and helping others had revealed themselves to be the most dangerous military force anyone had ever seen. On the bridge of the Bahamut, Admiral Tae-hyun was coordinating with Earth Defense Command. The ancient fleet was returning home, but long-range sensors were already detecting massive ship movements in Zenthari space. "They're mobilizing everything they have," reported Dr. Hai Jin from the intelligence station. "Current estimates suggest over 10,000 warships heading toward human space. Recommendations? They're probably thinking this is their chance to capture our technology before we can use it against them. They don't understand that we've been capable of this for centuries." Captain Sung Min joined the discussion from the command center of the Leviathan. "Sir, what are our rules of engagement? If they attack Earth itself?" Tae-hyun was quiet for a moment, thinking about the implications. "If they attack our homeworld, we respond with everything we have. But I want to try one more time to avoid that outcome." In the medical bay, Dr. Hyun Woo was finally strong enough to walk around. He had been talking with Dr. Yoon Seo about what he had witnessed during the rescue. The same nanobots that had healed his radiation poisoning could apparently be programmed to dismantle enemy ships. "I don't understand," he said. "How can the same technology be used for healing and destruction?" "Because life and death are just different states of matter," Yoon Seo explained. "Our nanobots work by manipulating atoms and molecules. They can repair damaged tissue by rebuilding it at the cellular level, but they can also break down materials that we don't want. That's terrifying. That's why we chose to be healers instead of warriors. When you have the power to unmake people at the atomic level, you realize how precious life really is. Lieutenant Dong Hyun was running tactical simulations on the ship's computers, trying to understand how human weapons could be so precise. He discovered that their targeting systems could identify individual organs inside alien bodies from thousands of kilometers away. The same scanners that diagnose disease could locate enemy weak points with surgical accuracy. We could target their breathing organs and shut them down without damaging anything else, he reported to his superior officers. Or we could target their nervous systems and simply turn them off. They would stop functioning without pain or awareness. This was what made human warfare so different from what other species practiced. When the Zenthari fought, they killed brutally and messily, using overwhelming force to destroy everything in sight. When humans fought, they killed precisely and efficiently, causing exactly as much damage as necessary and no more. But the precision itself was what made them so dangerous. An enemy who could choose exactly how you died was more frightening than one who simply wanted to kill you. Captain Byung-ho was analyzing the Zenthari fleet movements when he noticed something interesting. Admiral, their ships are grouping in. A formation that suggests they're planning a direct assault on Earth. No subtlety, no strategy, just pure overwhelming force. That's their weakness, Tae-hyun observed. They think warfare is about having more guns than the other side. They don't understand that it's about having the right guns in the right place at the right time. Dr. Soo-jin contacted them from Earth with updates on planetary defenses. All terraforming equipment has been converted to military use. We can alter weather patterns, change atmospheric composition, or modify gravity fields on command. How long to prepare Earth's full defensive network? It's already prepared, sir. It has been for 300 years. We just haven't told anyone about it. This was humanity's greatest secret. While they had publicly chosen peace and healing, they had never actually dismantled their military capabilities. They had simply hidden them so well that even most humans didn't know they existed. Every medical ship had hidden weapons. Every research station had secret military functions. Every colony world had defensive systems disguised as civilian equipment. The entire human civilization was a weapon that had been waiting 3 centuries for someone to force them to use it. Commander Jae-sung reported from the Fenrir that alien military observers throughout the galaxy were trying to understand what had happened at Vega. Sir, we're intercepting communications from a dozen different species. They're all asking the same question. Where did these ships come from? What are you telling them? The truth. That we've had them all along but chose not to use them. The psychological impact of this revelation was enormous. Every alien government was suddenly reviewing their interactions with humanity, wondering what other capabilities they had hidden. Species that had thought of humans as weak healers were now terrified that they might have accidentally offended the galaxy's most dangerous military power. Young Ho from the Intelligence Division brought disturbing news. Sir, some of the smaller alien governments are considering joining the Zenthari attack. They think this is their chance to share in capturing human technology. How many additional ships? Potentially thousands more. If this turns into a general alliance against humanity, we could be facing 20,000 enemy vessels. Tae-hyun considered this development. 20,000 ships represented a significant portion of the galaxy's total military strength. If that many enemies attacked Earth at once, even the ancient battlecraft might not be enough to stop them. Begin. Phase 2 preparations, he ordered. If they want to see what we're really capable of, we'll show them. Dr. Hyajin activated secure communication channels to facilities throughout human space. These were the research stations that studied the fundamental forces of the universe, supposedly for peaceful purposes. In reality, they were weapons laboratories that could turn physics itself into a tool of war. Solar engineering teams, report. Status, she called. Ready to modify stellar output on your command, came the response from a dozen star systems. Planetary engineering teams? All major worlds equipped with gravity manipulation systems. We can make planets uninhabitable or turn them into defensive fortresses. Atmospheric control? Standing by. We can alter the air composition of any world to make it toxic to specific species while remaining safe for humans. This was the level of control that humanity had achieved over the natural world. They could make stars burn brighter or dimmer, change the orbits of planets, or alter the very air that other species breathed. They had become masters of creation and destruction on a cosmic scale. But most importantly, they could do all of this with precision. They could make an enemy homeworld uninhabitable for invaders while keeping it perfectly safe for the original inhabitants. They could demonstrate power without causing unnecessary death. As the ancient fleet approached Earth, Admiral Tae-hyun made his final preparations for what might be the largest battle in galactic history. The Zenthari and their allies were coming with everything they had, expecting to face a dozen ships. Instead, they were about to discover that they had declared war on the fundamental forces of nature itself. All stations, prepare for maximum effort, Tae-hyun commanded. If they want to learn why we chose peace, we'll teach them. The news traveled through galactic communication networks like a virus, spreading from one star system to another with unstoppable momentum. In government chambers, military headquarters, and alien homes across the galaxy, beings struggled to understand what they had just learned about humanity. Emperor Krixnal stood before a massive holographic display showing the assembled Zenthari fleet. Over 8,000 warships filled the space around their primary military base, the largest force the Empire had ever gathered. The sight should have filled him with confidence, but the reports from Vega kept echoing in his mind. Status of Allied fleets? He demanded from his military advisors. The Rakthani Empire has committed 2,000 ships, reported General Zexmoth. The Virex Confederacy is sending 1,500 more. The Stellar Brotherhood has pledged their entire military force. Total numbers? Approximately 12,000 vessels, Your Majesty, the largest invasion force in recorded galactic history. Krixnal felt better hearing those numbers. 12,000 ships against 12 human vessels seemed like reasonable odds, even considering what had happened at Vega. But doubt still gnawed at him. How had humans hidden such advanced technology for so long? On the bridge of the Bahamut, Captain Young-ho was monitoring alien communications with growing concern. The intelligence officer had spent years learning to decode foreign military transmissions, and what he was hearing worried him. "Admiral, we're looking at a full galactic coalition," he reported to Tae-hyun. "At least 6 major species have joined. The Zenthari invasion force. They're calling it the Alliance for Galactic Security. What's their stated goal? Officially, they claim to be responding to a human military threat. Unofficially, they want our technology for themselves." Tae-hyun studied the tactical displays showing enemy fleet movements. The alien armada was enormous, stretching across several star systems as it prepared for the assault on human space. They think this is about capturing weapons. They don't understand that this is about principles. Dr. Hyejin joined the discussion from her analysis station. The psychological impact is spreading beyond military forces. Civilian populations throughout the galaxy are panicking. They're realizing that the gentle humans they've known for centuries have enough power to destroy their civilizations. Are they right to be afraid? Honestly, yes. If we wanted to, we could end most spacefaring civilizations within days. The fact that we choose not to is what makes us different from them. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Sujin was coordinating with defensive installations throughout the solar system. What looked like a normal star system to outside observers was actually the most heavily fortified region of space in the galaxy. Status report from all defensive sectors, she called during the daily briefing. Luna base operational. All gravity. Manipulation systems online, reported Commander Minho from the hidden lunar facility. Mars defense grid ready. Atmospheric control system standing by, came the response from the Red Planet. Asteroid Belt Command prepared for maximum effort. All mining stations converted to weapons platforms. The list continued for several minutes as dozens of supposedly civilian installations confirmed their readiness for war. Every planet, moon, asteroid, and space station in the solar system had been quietly converted into part of a defensive network. But the most impressive preparations were happening on Earth itself. Dr. Hyun-woo, now recovered from his ordeal, was visiting the Planetary Defense Center beneath the Pacific Ocean. What he saw there challenged everything he thought he knew about. His own species. The entire planet is a weapon? He asked Dr. Yoon-seo, who was giving him a tour of the facility. Not just a weapon, a precision instrument. We can control weather patterns to create hurricanes that target only enemy forces. We can alter electromagnetic fields to disable their electronics while leaving ours untouched. We can even modify gravity in localized areas. How is that possible? 300 years of research into terraforming technology. We learned to control planetary environments so completely that we can make worlds suitable for any form of life. The same techniques work in reverse. Hyun-woo was beginning to understand the true scope of humanity's hidden capabilities. Every medical advancement had potential military applications. Every terraforming technique could be used for warfare. Every peaceful technology could become a weapon if necessary. On the approaching alien fleet, Emperor Krixnal was receiving updates from his spies throughout human space. What they reported made no sense. They appear to be conducting normal activities, reported his intelligence chief. Medical ships are still operating. Research stations are still doing their work. Trade vessels are still making deliveries. It's as if they don't know we're coming. That's impossible. They must know about our fleet movements. Perhaps they're planning to surrender when they see the size of our force? Krixnal considered this possibility. Humans were known for being practical and logical. When faced with impossible odds, they might choose to give up rather than fight a hopeless battle. But something about their behavior didn't fit that pattern. Captain Wu Jin was monitoring the alien fleet from his command post on Luna. The approaching armada was massive, but he had seen the projections of Earth's defensive capabilities. The aliens were flying into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. All defensive systems report ready, he called to his staff. Estimated time to enemy arrival? 18 hours, sir. Begin final preparations. I want every system charged and ready for immediate activation. Throughout human space, similar preparations were being made. But unlike the frantic mobilization of the alien fleets, human activities seemed calm and routine. Children still went to school. Doctors still treated patients. Scientists still conducted research. The difference was that every human knew their Civilization was built on a foundation of incredible power held in check by conscious choice. They didn't panic because they knew their defenders were capable of handling any threat. Admiral Tae Hyun called a final meeting of all ancient fleet commanders. The 12 ships hung in space near Earth like sleeping giants, their crews ready for the battle ahead. "Final intelligence update," he said to the assembled captains. "Enemy force strength is confirmed at 12,000 vessels. They'll arrive in our system in 18 hours. "Orders, sir?" asked Captain Byung-ho. "We let them come. We let them see what they're really fighting against, and then we give them one final chance to leave peacefully." Commander Jae-sung looked troubled. "Sir, what if they refuse? 12,000 ships is a lot to handle, even for us." Tae-hyun smiled grimly. "Commander, they're not fighting 12 ships. They're fighting an entire civilization that has spent 3 centuries learning to control the fundamental forces of nature. We're not going to defeat them. We're going to educate them." The final hours before the battle passed quietly. Human families gathered for meals, knowing their loved ones in. The military were ready to protect them. Students attended classes where they learned about the history of warfare and why their ancestors had chosen peace. Workers continued their jobs, confident that their peaceful way of life would survive. But beneath this calm surface, the most sophisticated military machine in galactic history was preparing for action. Weapons that could unmake matter itself were being charged. Systems that could control gravity, atmosphere, and stellar radiation were being activated. The entire solar system was transforming into a demonstration of power that would be remembered for millennia. On the alien ships, soldiers checked their weapons and prepared for what they thought would be a glorious conquest. They dreamed of capturing human technology and using it to build their own empires. They imagined themselves as heroes who had defeated the galaxy's most dangerous threat. They had no idea that they were about to witness the most complete demonstration of military superiority in recorded history, and more importantly, they were about to learn the difference between a species that chose war and a species that chose peace, but remembered how to fight. Dr. Hyun-woo stood in the observation deck of the Bahamut, looking out at the stars where the enemy fleet would soon appear. As a healer, he had dedicated his life to preserving life and reducing suffering. But he was beginning to understand that sometimes the greatest mercy was the strength to protect those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson as well. In 6 hours, the largest invasion force in galactic history would arrive at Earth. In 6 hours and 30 minutes, they would discover why humanity had been so eager to put away their weapons 3 centuries ago. And in 7 hours, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift forever. The invasion fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a storm front moving across space. 12,000 alien warships stretched across an area larger than most planets, their combined mass creating gravitational distortions that bent starlight. Emperor Krixnall stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the peaceful blue world that hung in the distance. "Scan for human defensive forces," he ordered his sensor operators. "Sir, we're detecting the 12 ships that attacked our fleet at Vega. They're positioned near the 3rd planet. No other military vessels detected." Krixnall felt a surge of confidence. 12 ships against 12,000 seemed like reasonable odds, even considering human technology. "What about planetary defenses?" "Standard civilian infrastructure, sir. Communication satellites, weather monitoring stations, research facilities, nothing that appears to be military. Begin the attack. Destroy those 12 ships first, then move on the planet itself." The massive alien fleet began its advance into the solar system. As they moved past the orbit of Pluto, then Neptune, then Uranus, everything seemed normal. The outer planets showed no signs of military activity. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter appeared to be filled with nothing but mining operations on Earth. Admiral Tae-hyun watched the approaching fleet with calm eyes. "All stations report ready?" "Yes, sir," replied Dr. Soo-jin from the Planetary Defense Center. "Every system in the solar system is online and waiting for your command." "Ancient. Fleet status? All 12 ships ready for action," reported Captain Byung-ho from the Ragnarok. Tae-hyun opened a communication channel that reached every ship in the invading fleet. His voice was calm and clear as he delivered humanity's final warning. "This is Admiral Tae-hyun of Earth Defense Command. You are entering human space with hostile intent. I am offering you one final opportunity to withdraw peacefully. Leave now, and no harm will come to you." Emperor Krixnal responded with contempt in his voice. "We have 12,000 ships, human. You have 12. Surrender now, and we will allow some of your people to live as slaves." "I see. In that case, let me show you what you're really fighting." Tae-hyun nodded to Dr. Soo-jin, who activated systems that had been hidden for 3 centuries. Throughout the solar system, seemingly innocent installations began revealing their true nature. The mining stations in the asteroid belt suddenly sprouted massive weapons arrays. What had appeared to be simple rock processing equipment were actually cannon capable of accelerating projectiles to near light speed. Hundreds of asteroids that had seemed unremarkable began moving under their own power, revealing themselves to be camouflaged battle platforms. Mars lit up with defensive installations that covered the entire planet. The red planet's surface was crossed with energy networks that could project shields into space or focus destructive beams on distant targets. The terraforming equipment that had made Mars suitable for human life could also make it uninhabitable for anyone else. Luna revealed weapons installations that had been hidden beneath its surface for centuries. The Earth's moon transformed into a fortress that bristled with defensive systems capable of protecting the entire inner solar system. But the most impressive transformation was happening to Earth itself. The blue planet began to glow with energy fields that extended far out into space. Weather patterns shifted and swirled as atmospheric control systems activated. The very air around Earth became a weapon that could be directed against approaching enemies. "Impossible," whispered the Zenthari Emperor as he watched his sensors try to process what they were seeing. "How can an entire star system be militarized?" 300 years of preparation," Tae-hyun replied calmly. "We told you we preferred peace. We never said we were defenseless." The alien fleet continued its advance, but now they were moving through what had become the most dangerous region of space in the galaxy. Every planet, moon, asteroid, and particle of dust was potentially part of Earth's defensive network. Captain Seong-min coordinated the ancient fleet's response from the bridge of the Leviathan. "Sir, enemy fleet is entering optimal engagement." "Range! Begin demonstration," Tae-hyun ordered. The 12 ancient battlecraft moved forward to meet the alien armada, but instead of engaging in traditional combat, they began to demonstrate capabilities that redefined what warfare could be. The Bahamut fired a single weapon that created a wave of energy passing through the entire enemy fleet. Wherever the wave touched alien ships, their weapons simply stopped working. Not destroyed, not damaged, just turned off as if someone had flipped a switch. The Ragnarok targeted the gravitational fields around 1,000 enemy vessels and made them 10 times stronger. The alien ships found themselves unable to move, trapped in invisible cages of twisted space-time. Commander Jae Sung used the Fenrir's atmospheric processors to create a localized nebula around another section of the fleet. The alien ships found themselves flying blind through a cloud of particles that disrupted their sensors while leaving human ships unaffected. Throughout the fleet, alien crews watched in horror as their most advanced technology was casually disabled by weapons they couldn't understand. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds found themselves as helpless as children's toys. "This is impossible!" Crixnall shouted at his sensor operators. "Our weapons are military grade. Our shields are the best in the galaxy." "Sir, their technology isn't just more advanced than ours. It operates on completely different principles. They're not just defeating our systems, they're rewriting the laws of physics around us." Dr. Yoon Seo coordinated the medical response from the Bahamut sick bay. Even as the battle raged around them, human medical teams were monitoring the alien crews for signs of distress. When some Zenthari soldiers began suffering from panic attacks, healing nanobots were transmitted through space to help them. "You're helping them?" Dr. Hyun-woo asked in amazement. "We're not trying to kill them," Yoon Seo replied. "We're trying to teach them. Dead students can't learn from their mistakes." This was what truly terrified the alien crews. They were being defeated by an enemy that simultaneously fought them and tried to heal them. Human weapons could disable their ships while human medical technology treated their injuries. Captain Young-ho was analyzing enemy communications when he noticed something significant. "Admiral, the alien fleet is beginning to fragment. Several ships are requesting permission to surrender." "Denied," came the angry response from Emperor Crixnall. "Any ship that surrenders will be destroyed by our own forces." This gave Tae-hyun an idea. "Target the Emperor's flagship. Selective systems. Shut down." The Bahamut fired a beam so precise that it disabled only the ship's communication systems while leaving everything else intact. Suddenly, the alien emperor could no longer coordinate his fleet or threaten his own forces. Across the invasion armada, individual ship captains began making their own decisions. Some tried to flee, others attempted to surrender. A few continued fighting with hopeless determination. But the outcome was never in doubt. Within 2 hours, the largest invasion force in galactic history had been completely neutralized without a single alien death. Every ship was disabled, every weapon silenced, every crew alive but defeated. "Open a channel to all ships," Tae-hyun ordered. His voice reached every alien crew member in the solar system. "You came here to capture our weapons and conquer our world. Instead, you have learned that we possess capabilities beyond your understanding. But you have also learned that we use those capabilities with restraint." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We could have destroyed your entire fleet in minutes. We could have killed every one of you without effort. We chose not to because life is precious, even when it threatens us." Dr. Soo-jin began the process of repairing the disabled alien ships. Human nanobots flowed through space to fix damaged systems and restore life support. Medical teams prepared to treat injured crew members. "You will return to your homeworlds," Tae-hyun continued. "You will tell your leaders what you have seen here. You will explain that Earth could end any civilization in the galaxy, but chooses not to." As the alien ships were gradually restored to working condition, their crews sat in stunned silence. They had come as conquerors and been treated as students. They had expected death and received mercy. Emperor Crixnall sat in his command chair, staring at the blue planet that had humbled his mighty empire. "How long have they been capable of this?" According to their historical records, approximately 300 years, replied his intelligence officer. 300 years of hiding this power while pretending to be healers. Not pretending? Sir, they really are healers, but they're also the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. Within days, representatives from every major alien government arrived at Earth to sign the Treaty of Terran Recognition. The document acknowledged humanity as the dominant military power in the galaxy while confirming their commitment to peace and healing. But the treaty also included new provisions. Human medical ships would now travel with discreet military escorts. Any attack on civilian or medical vessels would be considered an act of war against Earth itself.